I remember my first time in Johnson Chapel as president when I was announced as president. And this will be, much to my amazement, the last time I will address the college from here at Johnson Chapel. I've made jokes for years and made reference for years to the oil paintings that surround us that remind us of the history of this place. And I am about to become an oil painting. Guess who the joke's on in the end? You all laugh about that now, but we asked a dear friend in London, great artist, who's had a show even at the Mead here, to do the portrait. He's most famous for paintings of clouds and horses. I hope you'll get used to that here in Johnson Chapel. The reason why this room and these portraits make such an impression is they remind us of the history of this place. And one of the things that happened to me was as I joined Amherst, I had spent my life coming to Amherst since my cousins grew up here, and I grew up sledding on Memorial Hill, which I enjoyed doing right up until I became president, and they told me I was the only person who couldn't sled on Memorial Hill because of legal questions. With some delight, I actually sledded again on Memorial Hill this winter, but don't tell anyone. The oil paintings and the chapel and the campus, and certainly these iconic buildings, are here to remind us of a history that is studded with great achievements of the worthies on this wall and of you all, and of almost 200 years of alumni. It's worth thinking about that history because in the end, for all the flash about how hot Amherst is as a college and how many thousands of kids want to get in here that we don't have room for, and press about this or that, in the end, the basics of the college haven't and mustn't change for close to 200 years now. The basics of a great faculty engaged intensely with an amazing student body. That's it. You know, the rest of it is fluff. Nice fluff, beautiful campus. In the end, it's the quality of the faculty and the students that we engage together here and engage with each other in a way the likes of which I have never seen before and suspect I will never see again. To recognize that, let me recognize my partner for these 8 years, the Dean of the Faculty, Greg Call. Come up or say something? You want to say something?
Tony, as we have over the last few weeks, I just want to take this opportunity in this venue to thank you. It has been a pleasure and a privilege to work with you for the last 8 years. And I want to thank you particularly for having the faith in our college to challenge us and the belief that we could meet that challenge, and for all you have given of yourself to our college. I am immensely grateful. I know the faculty, all of our colleagues are, and so I just want to take this opportunity to thank you once again.
That was unprepared and unrehearsed. We're going to be doing that. So, again, I just want to be clear because I've been sometimes infamously described as a revolutionary force, and I think that is not just a misnomer, but really a quite terrible misnomer, in the sense that most of what happens here, 90%, I don't know, was great when I walked in the door, and I'm pleased to say is great as I head out the door, and hasn't changed from when you were students or generations before you, again signified by the people around the walls. But things are in a particularly good place for Amherst at this point. Our student body is drawn more broadly from throughout the country, from throughout the economy, from throughout the world than Amherst has ever seen, and Amherst is now recognized, as it always should have been, as a national leader in finding quality of students, bedrock together with quality of faculty of what we do here, and making it possible for those students to come to Amherst and to be the next generations who will sit where you are sitting in the years ahead. It's nice to have the national media, the New York Times, paying attention, but we know that it's the right thing to do, and we do it for that reason. And it's nice that we can accomplish that and see the continued engagement of our students in great athletics. In fact, just yesterday, yet another national championship, the men's tennis team this time, joining women's basketball not so long ago. Really quite remarkable run. Great artistry and arts here on campus. If you have a chance, come hear the Zumbis here tonight for a slightly wild form of that artistry and talent. But I will say, let me say this, and I'll take a risk. I don't think Amherst's student community is perfect. I don't believe, actually, there is such a thing as perfection or utopia. And I would worry about it if we thought there was or that we were. But I have noticed two things particularly. One is the quality of the student body here. They are really remarkable. One of the sad things about reunion is you're here after they've just left. You know, would that we could figure out logistically how to have you here when the students are here, because they would blow you away. They are amazing. And they are increasingly so, not just because we choose out of, yet again, a record number of applicants, yet again, 8,500 something for 460 spaces. It's ridiculous, but is a tribute to this place. But they also increasingly are self-selecting Amherst over other brand name institutions because of the values of what this institution stands for. And in my view, that is a wonderful thing. My colleagues have heard this joke too often. I remember when I first got here and I said, you know, we have a parking problem. We didn't have enough parking spaces for students. Freshmen aren't allowed to park on campus. I said, why don't we not allow sophomores to park on campus? And they said, oh no, we couldn't possibly do that. Students would decide to go to another college if they couldn't park here. And I said, a student who chooses a college on that basis, I want them to go somewhere else. And one of the things that's happened increasingly, and we see this in the statistics and in our conversations with the students, is the students are choosing Amherst now for the reasons we want them to choose, which means even more, we're getting exactly the students that give us the possibility of having the impact on the world that the college aspires to have. And again, because it takes two to tango, we cannot be great without a great faculty. Amherst is at this point at a historic turning moment of our faculty. The great faculty that made such an impact on all of you and on me. Many are approaching retirement age at this point because there was a bulge of faculty hiring for the baby boom. And that bulge is now approaching retirement. In many instances, has reached retirement. We calculate that something like a third of the faculty will be replaced in roughly 5 to 10 years. That is a body blow to us because we have loved and depended on the amazing faculty. It is also an opportunity to us. And one of the things we've tried hard to do is to prepare the college for that demographic transition. Not just to be competitive for the best possible faculty by having the best students and great colleagues that they would join, but also by thinking hard with external reviews of departments, a tenure process that uses external reviews more vigorously, evaluating ourselves in every way that we can think of so that we can make sure that the next generation of faculty are as great as the ones that you enjoyed. We do that because we know, and some of my colleagues hate when I say this, that what we do here is not efficient. You know, one of my proudest achievements was bringing Richard Wilbur to the college as the Simpson Lecturer in the position that his mentor Robert Frost had. Dick is, in my view, the greatest living poet in America, and he teaches a seminar in this building with another English faculty member, another great poet and colleague, on writing poetry, and there are 10 or 12 students in the room. You can't describe that experience as efficient. It's not. It is life-changing. And we are in the business of changing lives. It's not just the faculty and the students, the staff as well, the administration, the staff as a whole. Amherst has shown its commitment to that community in these hard years that we are hopefully now coming out of, years in which almost every other of our peer institutions use the opportunity to let their staff go at the worst possible moment for those members of our community to find another job. Amherst said, not only will we hire more faculty now because we need them, not only will we not withdraw from the most aggressive financial aid policies in the nation because we need great students, but we will also not throw the members of our community who are our essential partners in the quality of what we provide. We will not throw them under the bus when it is expedient to do so. And we did not. And of course, the last ingredient is the alumni, you. People said to me when I got to Amherst, if you pursue some of the things you're talking about, you will find that the alumni will not be supportive. That has proven to be wrong. Not just a little wrong, a lot wrong. What I have seen is an alumni body who could not be more proud of their institution, as I am, who could not be more proud of seeing that institution retain its commitment to a quality of education that is second to none. An alumni body that retains its loyalty to its institution and is inspired to see even more students from parts of our world and community we had never reached before, eager to be at this place, to have the chance that you had and that you make possible for them to have. Amherst retains the highest participation rate amongst its alumni. Participation rate of donations by graduating seniors who may not even have jobs is what, about 90% at this point. That's unbelievable. The college launched with perfect timing, the largest capital campaign in our history in October 2008. People thought we were out of our minds. 5-year campaign, $425 million. We are less than 3 years into that campaign and are closing in very quickly on that final number, including with the 2 largest gifts in the history of the college and the largest unrestricted cash gift in the history of any college. Please don't get me wrong. That gift, for instance, it's not about that one gift. It's what it says about the alumni and what you all believe about what we are doing. It's that gift and all of the gifts that have and will make up this incredible campaign are a signal that says, you know, we want this college to aspire to even more, as incredible as that is. And we will support you more for doing so. And that is a statement that has reverberated throughout higher education. The job continues, the work continues. We have a science center to build, and we're working on that. We have a 19th president to find, and the search committee is working on that. My only hope and prayer and expectation and assumption is that when I'm an oil painting on this wall very soon now, or at least a cloud and horse in an oil painting on this wall, that you will continue the trajectory that the college has been on under the leadership of what I hope will be an even better president as the 19th. I'm open for your questions. Please. Yes, sir.
You said that we were going to have an exchange in faculty very shortly. So that could mean that there could be a dramatic shift in various approaches. Will the alumni or this brilliant student body have any role in this?
Wow. Great question. Thank you. Next question. The faculty, so this is complicated, right? The faculty take great pride, let's put it that way, in their ownership of the curriculum. And we believe that they have an expertise that gives them the right to that ownership. That said, one of the things that we have done differently than in the past at Amherst or at any other institution I'm familiar with is we've created a system that said it shouldn't just be the needs of departments, and it certainly shouldn't be the assumption that if, a scholar of X is retiring, we need to replace him or her with a scholar of X. That's death over time for an institution. So it can't be that. But what we have said is that the faculty as a whole have to make some deliberations about their priorities as a corporate whole that will guide faculty hiring. So the CAP report, as we called it, 5 years ago, something like that, said, we need science for non-scientists and arts for non-artists and writing for everyone and more global understanding, for instance. And we need to be open to interdisciplinary possibilities which departments, by their very nature, may not bring forward, because departments look out for the interests of departments. That's how they're designed. That changed how faculty hiring already has been happening at the college, and it wasn't an accident that it was a year later that the college created the first new major in 20 years, which was environmental studies, which wasn't in the interest of any one department, but now was motivated by the faculty saying we need to collectively decide on that. My assumption, I have to be careful here to not imply tying the hands of my successor, which of course I cannot do and wouldn't do, is the college will need to have another conversation that I'm sure will have opportunities for students and alumni and others to engage in, to say what should the priorities be for filling, the faculty going forward. Not just replacing it, but growing it. We need a larger faculty. And I assume that that will be a task that the next president will take up quickly. It is a major task for shaping the future of the curriculum and therefore of this college. And it's hard to imagine that everyone won't have an opportunity to say and to be frustrated by the results. Yes?
You mentioned that before I had a place to introduce for regular faculty a writing requirement.
First writing requirement, first new requirement at Amherst in 40 years. Thank you, but the other shoe is about to drop. Go ahead.
What is this progress on a timetable like?
I believe that the Committee on Educational Policy is deliberating that question. Welcome to my world. The curriculum at Amherst doesn't move quickly. And sometimes that is a source of frustration to some. And I suspect in the end it's probably a source of strength for the institution. That we talk and think hard and long about those kinds of decisions. And, people will have different views. I can now confess, I'm more of a believer in a general education requirement than this college actually seems to believe in. But I respect the faculty's deliberations on that and its decisions, mostly because I know they are doing a great job as educators in ways that institutions that have general education requirements are not. So, I understand. But we're also trying to be creative. One of the things that we've done, so we have online registration now. It sounds like a small thing. It only took us 6 years to get to. We have finally abandoned the little cards and the club pencils. So we're now actually computerized, which means faculty have access to their students' records online. They don't have to lose a file or find a file to do that. And interestingly, what it means, just to take an example in terms of the curriculum, is we can now chart which students are avoiding what kinds of courses. We knew that it's something like 10 or 15% of the student body were not taking hard science or lab courses. Now we'll know, not only will we know that when they walk into our office because it'll show up on the screen and we can say, excuse me, why aren't you taking a lab course? We can at least have the conversation, and we can do the research that'll tell us who's not doing that. Given that when I got to Amherst, we didn't even have an institutional research arm, partly because I think we believed we didn't need to know. We now have a strong institutional research arm and the capacity for it, with this example, to see what is working and what is not in the curriculum. And that will inform the ongoing conversations by the faculty about, for instance, whether another requirement is necessary if the conclusion is there are students who are evading something that we think is essential. Because we'll now have the information, we will have advised the students in a way we didn't before, and we'll know what we're doing. That seems like progress. It's the kind of thing that isn't instantly gratifying, but it's the kind of change that leads an institution in the right direction over time. And that's how institutions like this work and become as great as this one is. What?
Perhaps incorrectly, I think a good many of the older alumni now have the impression and that the college emphasizes trendy, modern figures in the liberal arts, and that the traditional subjects of excellence are being ignored. For example, students now read Frank O'Hara and they don't read John Donne and John Milton, because the modern people are the trendy folks. Do you have anything to say about this? Is this true? Is this an incorrect impression? Or if it is a correct impression, do you have any comment on that?
So Wyatt's question was, are students increasingly less engaged in the classics, if I can use that word, and overly engaged in the trendy? And my guess is that question has been asked in this room for close to 200 years. And the answer is Amherst College does both. You know, we have faculty and students who are on cutting edges. Some of those cutting edges prove to be less cutting than we thought. That's what cutting edges do, right? But I don't think, from any evidence I have seen, that the college has reduced in any way its commitment to, nor student eagerness to engage in what I would describe as the classics. You know, we just hired, for instance, a great medievalist whose classes are oversubscribed. The classes in Donne or Milton or Chaucer or Shakespeare oversubscribed at the college. We are looking forward, as you know, to a renewed or a continued partnership with the Folger Shakespeare Library, which is about to have a new director after Gail Pastor's amazing tenure. We hope to have more interactions with Folger to keep the Elizabethan era alive on this campus. The classics of philosophy, the classics of literature, so much a part of what happens at this place. I don't, you know, even if we wanted to change that, which we wouldn't, I don't think the students would let us, because they understand, you know, the qualities of what they are learning. I remember, as I suspect you do, what impact it had on me as a first-year college student to read Plato for the first time. I remember the feeling of my brain exploding. And we are in the brain exploding business. And we're not going to get out of it. And we know that the classics are an essential part of that. I certainly, teaching a first-year seminar with many of my colleagues for, I guess, half of the years I was here, in which we did exactly Wyatt the classics. It was all Plato and, you know, the Bible and the Quran, and, you know, it was just, you know, the students eat that stuff up. And even the students who are eager to engage in cutting edge know that they need the grounding in that material. And I should add, having students with different backgrounds in a class like that makes a huge difference. I mean, teaching the Quran, is a joke, right? You know, I was reading it a week before the students. Having students in the class who grew up with the Quran makes a difference in the conversation. It's part of the power of the diversity that doesn't diminish the commitment to the classics in any way, shape, or form. Sir.
How successful has the college been in getting students out of the Amherst bubble and engaging in the real world?
Thank you for that question. The college has always tried to get its students out of the bubble, not always completely successfully, but I think more successfully now, as you know. We founded the Center for Community Engagement, about 4 years ago, something like that, with major alumni support. What the Center for Community Engagement says is we want all Amherst students to engage with our community during term, in the schools, in other organizations here in Amherst or close by. And we want you to go out and have an experience in the world that will connect to your curricular interests. So if you are interested in environmental studies and you want to go work for a Republican Senate, Environmental Studies Committee staff for a summer, or go to India to environmental organizations work, and we will pay for it. Something close to a half of all Amherst students now get a paid summer internship at least once in their time here. Something close to 3/4 of all Amherst students are engaged in what we call community service or community engagement. Every athletic team, every scholar athlete is involved in community service as part of their team's activities. And all of that effort is connected to the curriculum because we want our students to go out and have experiences in the world that make them come back into our classrooms and ask us harder questions and say, no, professor, you may think that's the theory, but I saw it differently in this place. We want that engagement. It makes us a better place. Again, let me just try to be clear about this. The college's commitment to a diversity of its student body and the college's commitment to the students engaging in community activity and having experiences in the world is not driven by political correctness. It is driven by a commitment to the finest education we can imagine. And that we know having a wider array of even better students with wider experiences and who have more experiences while they're at college and bring those home to us and to each other means we do a better job of educating them for the world they're going to live in. That's what our commitment is about. Yes, ma'am.
Can you share your college philosophy in expanding the size, the population of the different classes, and how you're balancing that with retaining the feel of Amherst?
So the question was about the size of the college and retaining, what is essential about Amherst. And in your question, you've captured exactly the question that we all face. And we wrestle with this. When I got to Amherst, we were at about 1,600, and we are closing in on about 1,800 at this point. So we have seen some growth. If you look at the enrollments, and I've looked at this, over 150 years, it's actually, interestingly, a pretty steady upward slope. Not, huge jumps, but progressively larger, right? Why is that? Well, the trustees argued that we have the resources. And given the student demand for what Amherst provides, there was a sense that we have some degree of a social responsibility or responsibility to society to increase our numbers given the quality of what we are doing here and what impact we believe each student has. It's a multiplying effect on society. So there is some pressure to grow. It's also a way, in which we think, we can make Amherst's contribution, as I've said, to society even better. At the same time, there's the flip side, which is we know if we became much larger, we would no longer be Amherst. And the quality of what we provide would no longer be the Amherst quality. And so I think we are torn, to be honest, by that tension. We feel that about 1,800, or where we're about to be, 1,800, is about right for right now. Partly because we think we can maintain the 8-to-1 faculty-student ratio that I described earlier, and the quality of what the college provides. But also, to be honest and pragmatic, because of the step functions that would happen if we grew past 1,800. After 1,800, pressure builds for a new dining hall, another library, a new athletic facility, more dorms, gets more expensive, right? Right now, we could be more efficient in the use of our facilities, and we should be more efficient in the use of our facilities, but we aren't building additional facilities for additional capacity, and we haven't diluted the quality of what Amherst offers. And that seems like a sweet spot. To me, 1,800 is that sweet spot. I can't tell you what future presidents and alumni and trustees will determine the future sweet spot is, but this seems about right to me at this point. But it's a great and continued question. Yes, sir.
So you feel confident that the reforms that you've pursued around diversity and
Well, hold on a sec. One at a time. Go ahead. Up there. Yep.
are going to continue in your absence, and that the giants like Rabinowitz and Sarek are out there in a new generation of faculty?
So the question is, what assurance can I give that our ability to continue what we're doing in terms of attracting great students and being able to fund great students, but also attract the best possible faculty, whether that will continue. There are no guarantees in life. But being the best at what you do and having the resources to be the best at what you do is about as good a guarantee as we're going to get. I know from the alumni, from the student body, from the faculty, from the Board of Trustees, that the commitment to those two key ingredients, to finding the best students and paying for it, and finding the best faculty and paying for it, is not going to change. Because they know, this place knows in its bones, and the last 8 years have been yet more proof of that those are the investments that keep the place as strong as we want it to be and as we believe the world needs it to be.
Follow up to that question. I was talking to some undergraduates in American Studies, and apparently the quality of the faculty has actually fallen off. When I was here, it was Henry Steele Commager, Earl Latham, Leo Marx, and so on. It was arguably the #1 department in the country.
It wasn't just the number one, it was the first American Studies department in the country, so it was #1 for sure.
Our president was also a member of that. So we're nowhere near that.
Look, I'm not going to comment about strengths or weaknesses of particular departments. That would not be probably such a good idea at this juncture. Like any institution, we have greater strengths and greater weaknesses. We should recognize that. Having external reviews, for instance, of departments, which in most instances we are now doing for the first time in the history of the college, is a way to ensure that we don't convince ourselves that we're great when we're not. That is an essential strength for the place. And we will maintain that, and then we will find great faculty. What we've said to the faculty is we're going to hire more every year than we've ever hired at this college. And that's been true now for 2 years running. And we've said to the faculty, we'll do something we've never done before, which is if there are great faculty colleagues out there, at, say, the University of California, or, well, no, let me not go down that road, who we would love to have at Amherst, we will actually just call off the rules. You don't need to do a search, just tell us who it is. And we will grab those people. We did one of those this year. We hope to do more of those. Amherst needs to be nimble at this moment to make sure that every department is as strong as it can be and should be, and to make hard choices about where those investments should be made. We have time for one more? Yes, ma'am.
I'd love to hear an update on some of the controversies among the students currently. I think that it's interesting to learn about that group of, I know that when
Can you tell me which controversies you're referring to?
No, what are they talking about? What are they interested in? What are their issues?
So I think, so I'm not sure I'm an expert to answer this question. Maybe Alan Hart, the Dean of Students, can answer it better than I. The controversies, I think, there's always some controversies about the college and debates about, are we investing too much in this, or why aren't we investing more in Valentine? I've tried to be clear that, I will invest more in Valentine, but it's not my top priority. And that's not always the most politic thing to say, but I've said it pretty clearly that, I'll live with a number 2 cafeteria if it gets me a number 1 student body and faculty. That's a little unfairly put, but there, I've said now more explicitly than in 8 years that I'm willing to make those trade-offs. And of course, there's some controversy about that, though. Remember, when the economic crunch hit, it was the students who stepped forward first and took $100,000 from their party fund and donated it to the college for financial aid and for staff for the lowest paid of our colleagues. That was I'm sure there was some controversy around that. But I will tell you, that was a moment when I thought, oh my, this seems to be working. I also, the other thing I'll say about controversies on campus amongst the students, and again, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think I am, is that there are controversies that students felt a generation or 2 ago that they don't feel anymore on this campus. There were students of color, students from poor backgrounds, international students, who I think felt that they were tokens on this campus, and who felt that the place was not theirs fully or equally. I don't think they feel that way as much anymore. And I think that has been one of the most remarkable things I have seen at Amherst. Having achieved a critical mass of pretty much every cohort that we can think of, and having those cohorts having ever higher academic standards, so nobody feels like we've been dipping to do this, means that there is a community here of people who feel that they belong to this place. And I think that, that's taken some controversy away on campus and redirected, I hope, the controversies to the pressing questions of the day nationally and globally, which is what we should be focused on. But it's a tribute to this place in a world where that doesn't exist much, and where, for many of our students, Amherst may be the only experience they have of a community of that breadth and difference, with one exception: everybody's really smart. I'll tell you one story, and then I'll make some concluding remarks, if that's all right. So one story that I've told a couple times in recent weeks, and I don't know which stories to tell at this point. My mind is sort of flowing with all of them. So a student, current student, comes to Amherst, grew up in a not very good neighborhood in New York, went to a not very good high school in New York. There are such things. Went to an okay but not great community college in New York. Worked in a bookstore at JFK where he's a Latino guy, people treated him with the assumption that, of course, he would have no ideas about books. Lesson to us all when we go into airport bookstores. Applies to Amherst, gets in because we now use 3/4 of our community, of our transfer spots for community college students, because we know if there are 1 million community college students in America and we look for 20, we will find the most amazing students. Just math tells us that. Comes to Amherst, I get told about him. I invite him into my office. My office is designed to intimidate. That is its only function. So I bring him in. I ask him to tell me about his life. He tells me about his father who drives a taxi and his mother who works in a factory, and that neither of them could risk taking a day off to bring them to Amherst or even to see the college because they feared they would lose their job if they took a day off. He's telling me about this life, and he's sitting in my office, and I'm thinking, oh God, what must this place feel like to this kid, right? Ridiculous office, beautifully manicured lawns, elegant buildings, amazing facilities, everything we could think of. What must it feel like? So at one point I turned to him and I said, so isn't this weird? Isn't this whole thing really, really weird? And he looked at me like I was an idiot. And without even bothering to sort of make a gesture, swiped my question away and said, oh no, I feel more at home here than I have ever felt because there are other people here who like to read books. That's what we're in the business of. And that's true not just of that one student, it's true of all of our students. It was true of you. All right, let me try. I remember the beginning. I was in the discard pile of the last presidential search, which is where I belong to be. Mostly because I hadn't gone to Amherst, but because I had absolutely no credible experience for this job. I had never been a chair or a dean or a provost, nothing. The student on the search committee said, why don't we look in the discard pile one more time? There I was. They said, well, give him a call, kiss off, whatever. They asked me to meet with a group in New York that was coming down. There was a blizzard in New York. The group couldn't make it. The now chairman of the board and search committee, who was then a trustee, lived in New York. He said, never mind them. Take the subway, which is, as New Yorkers know, the only way to get around in a blizzard, and come see me for what I'm sure he thought would be a kiss-off conversation. Half an hour at best. And 3 hours later, I stumbled out of his apartment thinking that I had had one of the most amazing conversations ever. Little did I know it would be a life-changing conversation. And little did I know that it would be an example of the intense conversations that I have had with the alumni and the board and the faculty and the students and the staff of this college for 8 years. I hope for you all, I hope you have had, I hope you will have an experience like the one I have just had for 8 years. To be a part of an institution whose values you believe in completely, respect completely, an institution that never asks you once to compromise those values, but instead says, we have the wherewithal, or we will find the wherewithal to seek out those values and make them real more and more. There are not many places I know of in the world where that is the case. This is one, and one I have been honored to be associated with. Thank you all.